you expect players to be a little bit winded, a little bit out of sorts. And Caitlin said, yeah, maybe for those people, not for me. I'm Caitlin Clark.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, and I'm here with Ashley Nicole Moss and Erica Ayala. Thank you for being here, Erica. We always love when you are on the show, and this week we have so much to break down in women's sports.
We do. But look, we got to do what we normally do, and that is remind you to follow us on all of our social media channels as listed below. Instagram, Twitter. I'm never going to call it X, so stop telling me that I'm saying it wrong. I'm saying it correctly. TikTok, all the social media platforms you can imagine. But look, we want to remind you also to follow and subscribe and turn the notifications up to our YouTube page. And Emma beat me to the punch. Scan this QR code. I said scare. No, don't be scared to scan this QR code because we will pop up wherever you get your pods. That's on Spotify. That's on Apple. So look, there's no reason to not be tapped in right now with We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
Definitely tap in because we have a lot to get into. And if you don't get those automatic notifications, you're not going to be in the conversation. But on today's show, we're going to get into what's going on with Las Vegas, y'all. Like, we need to talk about that. WNBA All-Star voting is open, and we want to know who should be on that roster for All-Star. Caitlin Clark returned, helping Indiana to win over the Liberty. It was a thrilling game for sure. And Angel Reese got her first career triple-double. We have to get into all of that and more. But first, we need to talk about something. We need to talk about our very own Ashley Nicole Moss,
You're not.
who just announced that she's going to be on a new show on BET, 106 in Sports with Cam Newton. You announced it on the BET Awards.
Let's go.
Flex, okay? A straight flex, looking beautiful, I may add.
Always.
And just want to say congratulations. Like, Ashley, give us a little bit of like what this has been like.
First of all, it has been such a pain keeping this quiet. I was sworn to secrecy. Basically, like, look, we're trying to announce this at the BET Awards. You cannot tell anybody. So I've been sitting on this for about 2 weeks. And I'm a good secret holder, but just not when it comes to myself. So like I wanted to, the only person who knew was my parents. Thank God I was able to tell them. So outside of that, I couldn't tell anybody. When I had to go to LA, everyone was like, what are you going to LA for? And I was like, oh, just, vibes. Like I had to like on it. It was horrible. I was so relieved when it finally was released. Everyone was like, you tell me. I'm like, I couldn't. Don't yell at me. It was so much pressure. But I'm very excited. I'm excited because just like on this platform where we, do our very best week in and week out to highlight women in a variety of different sports, what we're going to do on that show is highlight the intersection of sports and Black culture, which I think, as sports have become so mainstream and there's so many entities that report on sports, I think that Black culture and the importance of Black athletes and, again, the culture and HBCUs and all the things and places, institutions that are not highlighted on regular sports conversations, we're going to have an opportunity to uplift our community and just the incredible work of HBCUs and everything in between. So I'm very excited about doing my small part in making that happen. And Cam is hilarious. So you're definitely going to want to tune in. So very, very excited. We don't start until the fall. So I got some time. It's a lot going on right now. Just got to take a deep breath. I got to do the NBA finals, okay?
Hey, that's what's up, though. Felicidades. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Erica, but before we move on to the W and everything going on there, I know you had some thoughts about what you wanted to talk about, now and what we need to talk about now.
I mean, I love this because you talk about storytelling and how it's important. And I think we learned during COVID with a touch more that WNBA players are hilarious, especially when they cut up together. And so I just think we need to talk about stud buds. Like Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann have been streaming, I believe it is. And they are just cracking me up with the clips that I've been seeing. They are so funny. But we are going to talk, of course, about the WNBA. And we know there was, a few little skirmishes that happened, including against the Minnesota Lynx and the Seattle Storm when they went head to head. And Natisha Heidemann basically talked about how in one of these little huddles that she was trying to keep her team cool, she went to Skylar Diggins and was like, "The little crush that I thought I had on you out the window." She was like, "Yo, girl, like, stop." Like, and I'm weak. Like, imagine your team's being heated, and in the heat of the moment, Skylar Diggins is so savage that she's like, "You still are crushing on me. Like, get out of here with that."
I know you still like me. Stop it. Yeah.
Right.
I love Skylar.
Exactly.
Listen, Skylar Diggins was a lot of people's crushes. So
Absolutely.
And probably still is, right?
is, and forever will be.
Yeah. And I need more of those stories. I need more of those stories because I was cracking up laughing. Even the way she was recreating things was hilarious too.
So funny.
So funny.
Really, listen, a lot went down in the W outside of funny things. Monumental things, impactful things also went down. The WNBA is a vibe. It is alive. It is cooking. And Caitlin Clark, she made her return. We're going to talk about that. Angel Reese, aka Mebounds, got her first career triple-double. I think she also licensed or is in the process of licensing Mebounds as well. So y'all think you making jokes, you're actually just making her money. But we'll dissect that a little bit later. That's what I'm saying. Look. We got to talk about Caitlin Clark first and foremost. She made her return, her much anticipated return, 3 threes in 45 seconds. Just want to make sure everyone understands how insane that was. Obviously, there was the video of her and Stu when she pulled up. Both were laughing. Even Coach Sandy was laughing and smiling at it, and just the energy that she brought to the Indiana Fever and the way she was able to return was absurd, because for anyone who's ever played professional basketball, or at least is just a connoisseur when it comes to watching, knows there's a ramp up period, and understandably so. You miss a substantial amount of time and you can never recreate that same intensity as you can in a real game, in practices and shoot arounds. It's just not quite the same. And you expect players to be a little bit winded, a little bit out of sorts. And Caitlin said, yeah, maybe for those people, not for me. I'm Caitlin Clark. Had a near triple-double, 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Extremely just exciting to watch, girls. And on top of that, look, the Fever have been able to keep everything afloat in her absence. Went 2 and 3, I believe. So it wasn't a free-for-all. Or a free fall, rather. They were really able to kind of keep it even keeled so that when she came back at the time that she did right here, weeks before the All-Star break, they can kind of pick up where they left off. Erica, starting with you, I mean, we'll dive into Angel in a second, but going on Caitlin, how impressed were you with that performance? Again, she's missed a nice chunk of time.
You know, it was fantastic. And you talk about how many three-pointers she was able to put up. And she did so by just emptying the tank. She went on the record being like, listen, I don't believe in that whole minutes restriction. Like, if I'm a ball, I'm a ball. You feel me? Like, that's how she went into the game. And Stephanie White was like, that's cute. And what we're going to do is rotate you in and out a little bit more. Like, you know, we got to keep the franchise player in a good place. But when she had those minutes, you could tell that she was emptying the tank. And like you said, there is that ramp up. And that only comes when you start hitting the court and playing against other people. And so I think it was great injection of just adrenaline, obviously, for Caitlin Clark. And that crowd was ridiculous. We're going to have the All-Star game there, and you can absolutely see why. But it was also a critical game. She was hitting three-pointers. She was able to expose the New York Liberty and their defensive switches in particular. But I mean, it was a fantastic comeback game. I mean, Paige Beckers had a great comeback game. I know we won't get into all the 30+ point scorers, but like, it's just like, how can you deny the talent? Like, you can feel how you want to feel, but we're not talking about feelings. We're talking about performance. And Caitlin Clark, she did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she absolutely did that. We saw the way that she was coaching from the sideline and just like the passion she had, even on the sideline, right? She was just waiting to get in to do that. You know, she has been visualizing, I'm sure, and doing just all the Caitlin Clark things off the court, and just could not wait to get on the court. And you see what happened when she got on there. So, and I would just say overall, when you look at 8 players that had 30 plus points this week, and talk about all of this elite play from the players that we're seeing. It's just, I love watching this. I love watching this game. I love the WNBA. I love what is happening with all of the teams. I mean, there's a couple that still need some work, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the teams are stepping up, showing us, the basketball that has been in the WNBA this whole time. And I absolutely love to see what is happening. I mean, this past weekend just in itself was one of those weekends where you're just like, man, I love this game for real. Like, I really love it. And so, seeing what Caitlin did, seeing what all these players are doing on their teams, seeing how people are stepping up to the plate, how teams like the Atlanta Dream are just rolling, and a lot of people didn't even expect them to do so. Yeah. I mean, there are so many storylines and so many things happening. I mean, that's the vibe that I'm feeling, is the overall WNBA is truly a vibe.
Yeah, you mentioned those 8 total players who had 30 plus points this week. Some of those players include Rahia Jackson, Alicia Gray, Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Page, Jackie Young, balling out this weekend. And we can't mention the balling out without mentioning Angel Reese. Okay, she had her first career triple-double, 11 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, increase in the league triple-doubles. Basically, we're seeing an increase across the league, but she's now the second youngest player behind Caitlin Clark to record one. So for the people who love to pit the two of them together, they're going to hate this conversation. But look, we all know what happened afterwards with the Mebounds and her licensing that. Good for you, sis. Get those coins. But seeing Angel, and I actually had the opportunity to speak to Sylvia Fowles before she went into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame over the weekend. And she just said, I mean, this is somebody who's won DPOY multiple times. And I asked her, what does she love about Angel Reese's game? And it was that ferociousness to live on those boards, to breathe on those boards, and just to constantly always fight for those rebounds, whether it's clean, whether it's dirty, whether it's somewhere in the middle. Alicia, I mean, this is great to see, because this is, as we know, Angel Reese has had it hard in this league, not necessarily on the court, but everything that surrounds it. This was great, because this is her game. This is what Angel Reese does so well, and that is live on the boards, assist that basketball, and sprinkle in some scoring of her own.
Yeah, unfortunately for Angel Reese, because of everything that goes on around the game, in so many people's eyes, she can't really do right? If she has a down game, they're just going to write her off as an overall player. And it's like, she is in the second year of the WNBA for her. Like, what she has done has been amazing. And that what she did with the first career double-double, I mean, that is just indicative of everything that she has accomplished. And Angel is in the gym. She works hard just as much as she works hard in business and in fashion and style and all of the amazing things she does. She works that much harder, after practice, before practice. Like, she is an amazing player that wants to get better every single day. She takes accountability for the games that she doesn't, necessarily play the best in. She wants her team to thrive and succeed. She's doing all the things that an all-star and a star player does, and she will continue to succeed, because Angel Reese is an amazing player who is doing amazing things, regardless of what anyone has to say about her, off the court, and all of these fans who aren't true basketball fans and just like maybe one player's fan, or just they want to hate on Angel Reese for some reason. Regardless of all of that, she is phenomenal, and she is showing that, and she will continue to show that.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what else there is to say. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You talk about hearing from Sylvia Fowles. What stood out to me when I was able to cover Angel Reese, in the NCAA tournaments, and even now in the WNBA, but specifically in NCAA, the way she's able to break down the game. Like, if you get her in a spot where she's really talking the game, like, you can tell she's a student. She loves this game. She has a lot of passion. And so is she always going to be 100? No, nobody is. Nobody is a freaking robot out here playing basketball. But the respect that she brings to the game, I think, is underappreciated. But we see it in that performance, right? We see it in the triple doubles. We see it in how she's able to, in her second season, and not even all the way through her second season, have such an impact on a Chicago Sky team and in the WNBA. So she's like, y'all gotta like hate it or love it. She's gonna still be Angel, which I love. Like, she might not be from New York, but she got a little something in there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Listen, as somebody who interviewed her after she won the title with LSU, I completely concur with what you're saying. A student of the game. And for people who think that Angel Reese is, switched up on Hollywood, she was the same girl when I interviewed her after she won the championship at LSU as she is now, just on a bigger platform. So let's just make it very clear. Before we move on to talking about what's going on the West Coast with the Aces, we got to acknowledge something that happened on the East Coast, and that is Seattle. Well, this is also on the West Coast. My geography is off. Well, Seattle handed Minnesota their first loss, and Indiana, the Fever, handed my New York Liberty, our New York Liberty. Again, I didn't play for them, but I'm just saying, their first loss. Erica, let's start here. What went wrong in both of those games, individually, collectively? How did we get to this point?
All right. First, I'm going to talk about what went right. Again, we already talked about it a little bit. Caitlin Clark came back. Like, I mean, what else we got to say? Like, sis went off. She went off.
Yeah.
Like, she went off. I think another thing I was looking for in this matchup is that it was a pretty choppy game. And what I mean is that the first game, and CBS, we had the both of those games, but in the first game, neither team was like in rhythm. There were a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes that were happening. This was a tighter game. There's still a lot left for both of these teams, but a tighter game. The things that didn't go right for the New York Liberty started even before the game started, and that's Jonquel Jones was not able to return. And we've talked about this on the show before. Like, this team, the New York Liberty, is 27-0 when she's hitting that double-double, right? Which she's averaging.
Yep.
That's a big loss. That's a big loss. Okay, no JJ, life goes on. But they're also without Leonie Fibish, who is their best three-point shooter. And the three-point percentage was way down for the New York Liberty in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you said exactly what I was going to say. I think, obviously, Caitlin coming back had a huge impact, as it would with any team they're playing against, she's coming back from an injury. But also, in addition, you don't have JJ. We talked about how important Jonquel is to this team. And, you breaking down that stat shows you exactly why. I'm not saying that they're nothing without her. That would be super false. But also, I think she is very integral to the team. And so when she's not there for a game, there's going to be some adjustment. You match that with what was going on with Indiana coming back. I mean, the fans, the whole thing that occurred that night. I'm not saying it was set up for Indiana to win. They definitely earned that win, but there were factors involved that definitely helped with the win. And so,
yeah.
And also, I'm just going to, the Liberty are great. They're so good, and we'll talk more about them later, but they're also like they're human beings just like everybody else, and they're going to have nights where they're not going to win. I mean, going undefeated is a really hard thing to do, and I'm not saying that, I expected them to lose this game, but I expected them to lose one. And so yeah. And I also think that for me, as if I'm thinking in terms of being a team or even a coach, I want to get that loss a little bit earlier than later. So let's just let it be what it is.
Yeah, that is a good point. They didn't want to lose the opportunity to play in the Commissioner's Cup again. But I mean, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, would you rather lose the opportunity to play in the Commissioner's Cup or in the postseason? I would take Commissioner's Cup 10 out of 10. So I digress. But again, to your point, Alicia, I feel like, look, going undefeated in any sport is difficult. I think sometimes the losses build character. They build the ability to bounce back. And this is a championship team, and they're going to respond like a champion does and say, all right, we got our first loss out of the way. Let's focus on business. Same thing with Minnesota. And I think that, honestly, I think undefeated is overrated. That's just my opinion when it comes to sports in general. I like a couple of losses. I like to see a little bit of perseverance. And I think that there's no two teams better equipped to persevere and bounce back from a loss, whether you want to deem it shocking, unshocking, whatever the case may be. No two teams are better equipped to bounce back than the two teams of Minnesota and the New York Liberty. And I believe that's what we're going to see. So, Alicia, though, like I said, when I messed up the geography of my T's, we're going to go back to the West Coast and talk about the Aces, because they're a long cry from the Aces that we saw once upon a time. What's going on in Vegas?
Man, it's a lot going on, Ashley. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to watch in a lot of ways because, excuse me, you just think about this team that has had so much success, and you saw like the chemistry and just everything that they've done as a team. But just like with any team, you have these teams who have done the things to catch up to you in a way. And then you also, in addition to that, have lost some key players on your team, right? So the bench that they have is definitely different. I mean, you don't have Plum, Clark, Hayes. There are so many players that did so many things to propel that team in ways that no one even saw. Maybe the stat line wasn't even there. Yeah. But because they don't have those pieces, you can really, really see it, especially in that bench production.
Looking at the side-by-side comparison of the team from this year and last year, and I didn't even realize it was this different.
Oh, it's definitely different. Yeah. And it's like you have A'ja Wilson, and no one can deny what she does, but she's only one person. You need other people to come in. And quite frankly, Lloyd, who they really thought was going to be a top producer for the team, is not. You know, I think 29.9% from the field, average 9, 4, and 2. Like after 11 years in the league, that was the lowest output that Jewel has ever had. And so she's even called to maybe even bring herself out of the starting lineup because she knows she needs to produce more, which I also think is the mark of a good player, but that's another conversation. So regardless, they just don't have what they've had in years past. It shows. And I'm not saying you're pressing that button yet, but you close to it because,
the panic button?
Yeah, I'm not saying I couldn't remember what the name was, but
don't jinx it, don't jinx it.
I didn't know if it was the panic button, abort mission button. There's a lot of buttons.
Yeah, it's the panic one. It's the panic one. But I don't know. I mean, I'm real close to it, right? Like I'm almost pressing it, but you know, it's hard also when you have A'ja Wilson out with a concussion, I believe, and you know they just haven't been all the way healthy. So it's a lot going on that team. They are a different team than they were in years past, and definitely changes need to be made.
You know, and I think some of it is just that if you go into, like Ashley was saying, looking at the roster side by side, and if there are players that are carryover that we're expecting to play the same role, they got to step it up, you know? And I've talked about post play. Now, there are some injuries that they've been dealing with. So, you know, that's always something. Megan Gustafson has been out. They're getting Elizabeth Kitley, basically this is her first year, right? Getting her integrated. But, you know, I think that I've always wanted to see Kia Stokes be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I think in the last handful of games, we're starting to see that a little bit more. Jewel Lloyd already mentioned that. But for me, what makes the Aces so dynamic, or what made them so dynamic in those back-to-back years, is that they were able to dominate in the post. And we have to say, like, if you want to talk about hitting the panic button, I think you can do that insular, right? Just talking about the Aces, but you also have to look at how the league has changed since they went back-to-back. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people out here, there's teams out here like the New York Liberty that we talked about, like Minnesota, the two teams in the finals last year, that they are playing and have almost perfected, at least as close to perfect as we've seen positionless basketball be played in the WNBA. And so when you have a player like Kia Stokes, she's going to have to be able to give more offensively if she's going to be in that starting role, because she's guarding people who are going to have her running all across the court because they can shoot from anywhere. I mean, Jonquel Jones, not only shooting from the three, but dribbling off the dribble, taking Tina Charles to the basket. Like, what are we, like, come on, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we spoke about, Alicia, was just kind of like, you know, whenever you have the changing of the guard, whenever you have new teams and new blood coming in each and every draft class, you know, the landscape of the WNBA changes, right? You can only be top dog for so long. And that's what makes the league exciting, right? And I think that, comparing it to the NBA is the best thing I can use as an example. That league has had 7 different champions in 7 different seasons. And I think we're seeing that kind of trajectory in the WNBA where it's going to be hard for one team to remain at the top for an extended period of time. I think that, the Fever are in a position to start making some noise. The Sky are not that far off. Obviously, you still have the Liberty and Minnesota. We were talking about how the Dream are taking everybody by surprise this early in their rebrand, if you will. There's just so many teams now that have kind of figured out what to do well and have capitalized off of that. And I think the talent is also so much more dispersed. Maybe it has been in previous years that the Aces were maybe the last of their kind when it comes to the way that the WNBA looked in that dynasty era. And I think now we're seeing teams, maybe we're seeing less dynasties, but we're seeing more equality across the league, which is making it anybody's league at this stage,
Yeah,
Absolutely. I also think that there is, when you have a team, right, there is long-term planning of like cultivating young talent and getting people to come up into those spots
right?
that are going to be vacated by people who have been in there for a long time, right? But then you also have the right now. And I think for me, if I look at the Aces, they kind of have an issue with that long-term plan versus, you had a good team that was very, very, very solid, but then you lose a couple of key players and you have nobody to step into those moments or those positions, I should say, rather. So it's to me, that's part of it too, is you got to think about that long term. Even though you're winning, you got to think about what happens when you have these players that are no longer with you. You got to plug those in to remain consistent in that winning. And so I don't know, that's just something that I see too when I look at the overall like roster and the movement that they've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's going to be interesting. We're going to keep our eyes open for not just the Aces, but all teams in the WNBA. But we're going to talk about one team specifically in our Guarantee of the Week presented by AT&T. Now, this week, we are raising the very maybe polarizing question of, is the 2025 New York Liberty team one of the best all time in WNBA history? And now, before everybody gets all high, like Ashley, of course, the New Yorker's going to read this off. Relax. All right. I'm just reading what was wrong with the paper. But some of the other past historic WNBA teams include the Houston Comets, the Minnesota Lynx, etc. One is, how does the Liberty compare to those teams? And in spite of the loss to Indiana, what is making the Liberty so good right now? But before you guys answer, want to run some numbers by everybody who are listening, either on pod, audio, wherever you're getting this. So the first 5 home games, they've averaged over 16,000 in attendance, almost 40%, almost a 40% increase from last year, which was under 12,000. So it was 11,645 to be exact. Now, when we compare them to some of the other legendary teams in the WNBA throughout their history, let's go through some of them. We had the 2010 Seattle Storm. They went 28-6 in the regular season, 7-0 in the postseason. Lauren Jackson won MVP for the 3rd time there. We have the 2023 Aces. Their record was 34 wins. They lost just 6 games in the regular season. So 8-1 in the postseason. We had the 1998 Houston Comets. They went 27-3 in the regular season, a league record for winning percentage, .900, which still stands to this very day. The 2 losses that they did have were in overtime. You have Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, the Hall of Fame trio, who need no introduction. Then you have the 2014 Phoenix Mercury. They went 29-5 in the regular season. They set a league record for wins that stood until the seasons were increased to 40 games in 2023. And then you had Diana Taurasi obviously leading that team. And you had 5 Mercury players that averaged double figures in scoring. And then last but not least, we have the 2011 Minnesota Lynx, a 9-game winning streak, set a franchise record at the time and the longest in league in 2011, 27-7 record, best in WNBA and team history. So breaking all that down, it's a lot of history, it's a lot of numbers. But where would you kind of put the 2025 New York Liberty in that conversation, or would you not put them in the conversation at all, Alicia? And don't be a New York hater. Nobody likes that.
Well, first of all, both of you are New York supporter. Like, don't. Okay, so I understand that. So I feel like y'all are a little biased too, but we won't go there. I would say it's too early to say anything like this when it comes to the Liberty. Okay, come on, give me that part.
I mean, I was just like Natasha Bedingfield, right? The rest is still unwritten. What are we doing?
Yes.
I'm here throwing stones, making assumptions.
Yeah. I mean, I was feeling a little bit of, I wasn't sure what I was going to get back, but hey, co-sign on me now. So, yes, they have this championship core in Stuart Jones and Ionescu. Like, I get it. They have that. You added Cloud, you added Burke to the conversation. They are going for a repeat, which is definitely, that would put them in like a higher, team capacity when it comes to the history that you just so eloquently said. It would, but they're not there yet. We don't know that. And there's also teams like the Lynx that are there, that are right on their tail, if not above them right now, as far as like going for that championship. So when you look at the league, it's not like they're head and shoulders above everybody in the standings. So you can't even say that, right? You can't even assume that they're going to be in that championship the way that these teams are playing, if I'm being honest, and not even just with the loss that they just had. So, I mean, the season is still going. Yeah. They just had their first loss. They're not all the way healthy right now. And I mean, it's way too early to tell. Like, it's way too early to put them into that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's early. I have to mention, like you also have to mention Leonie Fibish, what Niara Sabali is going to do, and I think they have the ability not only to change how we think about this New York Liberty squad, but also like we got to give some love to the international holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Which definitely goes back to the early years, of the league. Some great Brazilian players. We mentioned Lauren Jackson, and things of that. Australia, I mean, their coach is Australian, so you got to do all of that. But it's too early. They just had their first loss. We're talking about some teams with 20 some odd wins, not even close to that. There's a lot of potential. And we have to see, because I think Golden State is finding their stride. Atlanta is looking real good. Seattle might kind of sort of be trying to figure some things out. There's so many teams that also are just out here playing spoiler, even though they might not be a team that's going to be in the top 8 when all is said and done. So these are the kinds of things that it's hard to say right now on the trajectory. Are they giving themselves a chance to make that kind of history? Yes. And we'll just say, I think that this is a New York Liberty squad that is very much focused on whatever their goals are in the locker room. Not compared to last year, not compared to any other New York Liberty squad, any other WNBA squad. They're comparing themselves to themselves.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great points all around. And I agree completely. Too early to tell. But because of that, we're going to revisit this. We're going to bookmark it. I'm sure Emma's going to clip it. Let the Liberty know, though, that Erica and I are on the right side of history. We believe, the West Coast is a little, the West Coast on the podcast is a little bit hater.
Who even brought up West Coast? Ashley, I didn't even say anything about East Coast. Now you just making stuff up.
It doesn't matter. East Coast, the best coast. We all know that.
Well, that is not necessarily true. So we can have a conversation about that on the next pod.
But look, to everyone's point on this pod, I think that it is fair to say this is anybody's league. This is anybody's game. This is anybody's season. And what you did last season doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the running to do it again this season. So because of that, we're going to revisit this conversation at the end of the season and see exactly where the Liberty are, if they are in the postseason, if they are the top dog in the championship conversation, or if there is a new team that is in the mix that maybe went under the radar in this conversation. So do not worry. This conversation just has a button. It's a pause for right now, but we're going to revisit it in a few months. But coming up is the WNBA All-Star. And that we're going to talk about right now in a little segment we're going to call, Alicia, Make Your Case. So make your case, girl. Let's go.
Well, listen, somebody who must be on the WNBA All-Star team is Alicia Gray. Okay.
Oh,
First of all, she is balling out. Now, we all know that she is the reigning 3-point. What did she got the 3-point and what was the other thing? She got both of them, the skills challenge last year. So she's the reigning, she's the winner of those. So we got that, right? But this year, what she's doing is so phenomenal. So she was named Eastern Player Conference of the Week. And that was actually a first for her, which I was like shocked. But that was right. Like, I don't know if that should be the first, but it was apparently. So that was after averaging 26.5. I don't want to leave a 0.5 off. Okay. 4.5 rebounds and 4 assists per game, 62.5% from 3-point range and 65.2% from the field. One of the most efficient scoring stretches of the league this season, period. Last game in the Commissioner's Cup, when they won over the Mystics, like very handily, I might add, she was 10 for 14 from the field, 6 from 9 from the arc, spearheading a franchise 18 3-pointers for the Dream. She is balling. She deserves to be on the team. We saw what she did last year, and just give her things.
I'm with it.
Be on it.
I'm not mad at that pick at all. Do you think she's gonna revisit the 3-point and skills as well, or
if she doesn't, they should. I mean, she it was electric last year. I don't know if you Erica, you were there, I believe. It was electric seeing her do that last year, and she should absolutely be in it this year. Especially, even the numbers are showing that. So
100%.
Yes.
100% she should be there again. And I'm gonna let y'all know, Alicia Gray was very motivated by that being the first time, and I believe the WNBPA worked hard to get the bonuses, to raise the bonuses for the winners of the skills competition and the 3-point contest, which I'm not the first, but I will be the one on here to say, let's just name it the Allie Quigley 3-point competition. At this point, you know what I'm saying? Sis gave us the Irish goodbye, and then she came back and gave us a real goodbye. Just come on. Come on. She deserves that respect. Put that respect on Allie Quigley. But anyway, the unofficial Allie Quigley 3-point contest, she won both of those. And, we know that there's going to be money on the line again. Alicia Gray shows up when that check is cut. Okay. She don't play. She don't play. Right. I ain't mad at it.
I'm not mad either.
But for me, when looking at All-Star, and we're making some assumptions, these are players that we really want that maybe go overlooked for one reason or another. And I'm going with my girl, Kayla Thornton. I've been rocking with Kayla Thornton since the Dallas days. You feel me? Because she's the kind of player that often gets overlooked for All-Star because she's defensive minded. And I don't know what the bias is. I don't know. I think defense is sexy. I'm just going ahead and say it. Come on, period. Let's go. Not everyone could rock with that. That's what makes it immediately sexy for me. But that's besides the point. My point is that now she's rocking with an expansion team. And Sis is their leader. No question about it. She's getting the most minutes that we've seen her play at this point in time as we near All-Star. She's averaging the highest points that she's ever, because I would argue she's getting more minutes, and she's coming up clutch. This is a Golden State Valkyries team that's coming in and just hurting people, right? Nobody thought, unless you go to cbssports.com, I had them coming in 9, and even I'm wrong right now. You feel me? They're in playoff position right now. And that's because of my good girl, Kayla Thornton. Put some respect on her name. Get her to All-Star. She has absolutely earned it, deserves it. And I don't know that there's many other people that or anyone else right now on that Golden State squad that are going to be a better representative of right now. If we want to keep it a buck, the franchise that's pulling in hella fans on a consistent basis since preseason.
The West Coast franchise.
Oh, she did it. She did it. Why you do that on me? She did the Uno reverse.
I rebuke what she said. Continue.
Regardless, no, it's Kayla Thornton for me. I feel like you got to give her some love. She's been a role player for so long. Now she's in a position where she's a go-to player. This is her time. Not to mention, she's already been at an All-Star, in Cali. She represented the Valkyries at NBA All-Star. So, give her flowers. She deserves to be there for W All-Star too.
Speaking of giving somebody their flowers, it's a good segue to my pick, and that's Miss Skylar Diggins. Look, as we know, her first season with the Storm was a little bit off. She got off to a rough start, but I think that she came into this season she shed her last name, her hyphenated married name, and she said, look, I'm going to reintroduce you to Skylar Diggins, not Smith, Skylar Diggins, period. And look, 17.8 points, 6.5 assists roughly. Right now the Storm are 10th in the right now they're 4th in the league, and they're cooking right now. Obviously they're going through some turmoil and some ups and downs, a lot of new faces on this roster, but I believe there are only a handful of players in the league who compete the way Skylar Diggins does on a night to night basis. Her ferociousness, her dedication. I had an opportunity to watch her in Unrivaled, and she was on go back then. So she just took that and carried into this season. I think if anybody has shown that you can go from being the top dog to struggling a little bit to go right back to the top, it is Skylar Diggins. She has proven that time and time again. Never count her out. Really just happy for her. As we know, had a really tough time in Phoenix. That whole situation that was just a mess, and the situation of not being able to use the facilities and while she's on maternity and just all that chaos, and then gets to Seattle and is like a phoenix rising from the ashes, has a brand new start, and I just believe has really made the most of it and has reminded everybody that Skylar Diggins did not go anywhere. She's very much been here, and she's going to remind you she's still that girl. I think if anyone has deserved a All-Star spot and has worked for it, it is her, and I hope she gets it.
So hold up. What you're saying is you still like her.
Yes. Absolutely. Very much the part of the fan club. Been here since day one and will be here at the end.
Big East days. Come on. When she was hurting UConn, listen, I ain't like it, but I did. But I didn't.
It's me, Lil Wayne, Break. We all part of the Skylar Diggins fan club.
We all are a part of it, and we should be.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Look, we gotta make some predictions though, Alicia. Emma here has said, let's make the predictions who will be captains. Basically the highest vote getters for the All-Star teams this year. Some of the names we can choose from: Caitlin, Sabrina, Stewie, the list go on and on. Who are you guys anticipating?
Just purely off numbers, Caitlin.
Right.
I mean, I just know that when people they do not play about Caitlin. Caitlin Clark fans don't play about Caitlin.
That is an indie girl.
In Indy.
Period.
In India.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. I think that's across the board. Yeah. I think that's across the board,
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark's gonna be there. Now,
any other name?
Yeah, this is what's kind of crazy, right? Because the fan vote, I mean, Asia and Stewie are always tops. That's why we've seen them be captains for so long. And I love their dynamic when they're kind of sparring in a friendly way at All-Star. But again, pretty sure Caitlin's going to get one of them spots. Asia Wilson, I got to think that she's up there. I'm going to say it's probably going to be Asia, but I low-key want to see Fee come through. And you know what? I'm seeing a lot of Unrivaled fans, even W fans that were deep into Unrivaled. Like they got a little, there's a little extra love for the Unrivaled players. So now Fee in a Minnesota franchise that has been overlooked, and Cheryl Reed be saying a lot of things sometimes. I don't agree with all of them. I'm still from New York, you feel me? But what she has been saying for years is that she will have stars in Minnesota like a Maya Moore, like a Sylvia Fowles, like a Lindsay Whalen, who go underappreciated. Those days are gone. I want to see Fee as a captain. I think that would be tight.
I want to see her as well. And I just hope that the fan base is with us on that, because I just think it just boggles my mind how underappreciated she is as a player. It really, really, truly does.
Yep.
And so, I mean, come on, like, vote for Fee.
For sure.
Vote for Fee, because she should be there.
Again, another player I had a chance to watch up close and personal at Unrivaled. And when I tell you, I tapped her husband, Alex, on the shoulder. I said, what does she eat for breakfast? What is her main problem? He said, I don't know. She just wakes up like this. That is a direct quote.
Right.
Look, July 18th through the 19th is WNBA All-Star 2025 coming from you live from Indianapolis. And I know one person who will be there, Miss Alicia. I'm sure Erica will be there joining her front and center, giving you all the behind the scenes access, everything that you could imagine that you would want. Trust me, you're going to want to be tuned in to all of our social channels, because Alicia is going to be hard at work making sure you get an inside look if you cannot be in Indy for the All-Star game, All-Star weekend, I should say. So all of these channels below are your best chance of getting that information, getting those videos, getting everything and anything you can imagine first. And also, if you are tuned in and subscribe to the YouTube page, there may be a special podcast that happens, and you won't know that unless your notifications are turned all the way up. But if you can't watch live and you're not going to be on social, that's all right, because if you scan the QR code at the end of the show, you can listen to the podcast that is going to follow and that leads up to WNBA All-Star. And we're going to have a lot more shows in between that. So this is not a break. We're just letting you know so you can get ready, stay ready, so you don't got to get ready. You know the mantra. For myself, for Erica, for Alicia, it has been real. And we will be back next week with an all-new episode of We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
See you next week.